Okay, so everyone's talking about AI agents, right? The hype is, well, it's everywhere. But the real question is, how do you actually build one that works? One that's reliable in the real world? Today, we're going to cut through all that noise and break down the practical, proven patterns for building effective LLM systems. And we're going to start with maybe the most surprising, but also the most important insight right from the get-go. The team's getting the absolute best results. They're not using the fanciest, most complex frameworks out there. No, the real secret, as we're about to see, is all about simplicity. So to really unlock that secret, we've got to nail down one super important difference that's going to shape every single decision you make from here on out. And that's the difference between a workflow and an agent. Okay, so think of it like this. On one side, you've got workflows. They're like a recipe, right? The steps are all laid out, it's predictable, it's consistent, because the code is calling the shots. Then you've got agents, and they're more like a master chef. You just give them a goal, and the LLM itself figures out the steps, which tools to grab. It's way more flexible, sure, but also way less predictable. And getting this difference? That's everything. All right, before we start building any of these big, complex systems, we've got to talk about the basic building block. The one piece everything is made from. Yeah, think of it like our foundational Lego brick. And just to be clear, we're not talking about your plain vanilla LLM here. Nope. An augmented LLM, this thing has been given superpowers. It can use tools, it has memory, it can go out and grab new information from the web. This is the engine that's going to drive everything we're about to look at. Okay, so let's see how these Lego bricks snap together. We're going to start with what's called the workflow playbook. These are your proven, reliable blueprints for when you have a pretty good idea of the steps you need to take. First up, the simplest one of all, prompt chaining. And honestly, it's exactly what it sounds like. You just have one LLM call, and its output becomes the input for the next one, which then goes to the next one. Simple as that. A to B to C. So where would you use this? Well, it's perfect for breaking a big, complicated task into smaller, manageable chunks. Think about it. You could have one LLM whip up some marketing copy, and then you just pass that straight to a second LLM to translate it. Yeah, you add a little bit of time, a little latency, but you usually get a way more accurate result because each step is so much simpler for the model to handle. All right, pattern number 2 is routing. And the best way to think about this is like a smart switchboard, or maybe a traffic cop for your app. It takes one look at what's coming in and decides exactly where it needs to go. And this is so incredibly useful for making things more efficient. Imagine a customer support bot, right? It could see a request about a refund and send it down one path, but a technical question? That goes somewhere else entirely. And here's the really cool part, you can use it to save money. You can send all the easy questions to a cheap, fast model and save that big, powerful, and expensive model for the really tough nuts to crack. Okay, pattern 3 is all about two things, speed and confidence. It's called parallelization. So instead of that A to B to C chain, we're going to have multiple LLMs all working on the same problem at the exact same time. And this usually breaks down into two main flavors. The first is sectioning, and that's all about speed. You break a task into parts that can be done independently, like one model could be handling a user's question while another one is screening it for safety stuff. Then there's voting. This one's all about quality. You give the same task to a bunch of different LLMs, and then you see what they all agree on. Super useful for something like finding security holes in code. Okay, now things are about to get a little more dynamic. This is the orchestrator workers pattern. I want you to picture a project manager, that's the orchestrator, who's in charge of a big, complex project. They break it down and start handing out smaller tasks to their team of specialized workers. So you might be asking, wait, how is this different from just running things in parallel? The key word is flexibility. See, with this pattern, the subtasks aren't all planned out in advance. The orchestrator LLM is deciding what to do on the fly. This makes it absolutely perfect for something like a coding agent that has no idea which files it's going to need to edit when it starts. And for our last workflow pattern, we have the evaluator optimizer. This one is all about creating a feedback loop. Think of it like a writer and an editor. You have one LLM doing the main work, that's the optimizer, and then a second LLM comes in and acts as a critic. That's the evaluator to help make the final product better. And this is just so powerful for anything that needs real quality and nuance. I mean, imagine you're translating a novel. The first draft from the optimizer might be technically correct, but kind of clunky. Then the evaluator LLM can step in and provide feedback to really capture the author's original tone and style.
It's this cycle of refinement that gets you to a truly great result.
Okay, so we've gone through this whole playbook of structured workflows, right, where the code is pretty much in charge. But what happens when the path forward is a total mystery? When you can't predict the steps? Well, that's when you have to let go of the reins and unleash a truly autonomous agent. And yeah, this brings us to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? When do you make that leap? When do you go from a nice, safe, predictable workflow to something where the LLM is actually in the driver's seat?
The thing is, it's not magic. It's actually a pretty logical loop. First, the agent looks at the task and makes a plan. Then, it tries to execute one step of that plan using its tools. After that, it gets feedback. Did that tool work? What happened? And this is the most important part. It stops, reevaluates its plan based on that feedback, and adjusts. And it just keeps doing that. Plan, execute, learn, repeat, until the job is done.
But look, we have to be real here. Full autonomy, it's powerful, but it comes with some serious risks. It's more expensive to run, for one. A tiny error early on can compound and turn into a massive failure down the line. You absolutely 100% have to test this stuff in sandboxed environments, and you need rock-solid guardrails and kill switches. This is not something you just throw into the wild. Okay, we've seen the Lego bricks, we've seen the predictable workflow blueprints, and we've talked about the truly autonomous agents. So now, let's wrap this all up with a few golden rules for actually building this stuff for the real world.
Look, if you only remember one thing from all this, please make it these 3 core principles. They will help you build systems that are not just powerful, but also reliable and, not a nightmare to maintain.
Okay, number 1, simplicity. Please start with the absolute simplest pattern that gets the job done. Only add more complexity if you can prove it's actually needed. Number 2, transparency. Don't build a black box. Show the user what the agent is thinking, what its plan is. No one likes scary surprises. And number 3, the interface. This is all about the tools you give the agent. If your LLM can't understand the tools you give it, it's going to fail. It's that simple. And that leaves us with one last thought, which kind of brings us right back to where we started. In this big rush to build the most complex, most powerful AI system, maybe the smartest thing you can do is find the simplest, most elegant solution that actually works. Because maybe, just maybe, the most powerful system is the one you didn't have to over-engineer in the first place.